Good afternoon, and welcome to everyone who's joining us and those who are on their way. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Marching Forward with Flow, episode 3 for 2024. I am your host, Andrea Pratt-Smith, and I am joined today by a very special guest in honor of International Women's Month, Colleen Johnson, CEO of ProKanban.org. And we have a very lively discussion planned for the day, and we hope that you in the audience will raise your hand and speak up and join the conversation. So, Colleen Johnson, thank you so much for being with us. Can you just tell our audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me, Andrea. I'm happy to be here and be talking with you today. Like Andrea said, I'm the CEO of ProKanban.org, which is a Kanban learning community focused on creating a safe and inclusive place for everyone to learn about Kanban, whether you're new to learning about flow concepts or you've been practicing for a very long time. And I've been working in IT and technology for about 25 years now. I started out in quality assurance, as I think a lot of Agile practitioners do, because I think we tend to be acutely aware of the things that are busted in the process when we're at the end of it. I worked in QA for a good part of my career, and then started venturing into Scrum practices and got a job as a Scrum Master, where I worked for some time and then was introduced to more Kanban and flow metrics and flow approaches and really fell in love with them. I founded a software as a service company with my husband in 2018 called Scatterspoke, which is a tool for online retrospectives that marries up your quantitative and qualitative data together to provide insights and to create more powerful retrospective questions. So I'm not as involved with Scatterspoke these days, as I've been focusing full time on the Pro Kanban world. But it really gave me a chance, all the work we do to build software products, it really changed my perspective when it was my software product. All the things we coach other teams to do, I did wrong. So it's harder than it sounds, I think, to think about things like small batches and limiting WIP and all of the things we might tell others to do are hard to do when it's our own work. So it's been a great experience and a great ride, and I'm happy to be here with you today.
Well, thank you so much for accepting my offer to join today. I want to apologize to our audience who may have tried to tune in last week on the 8th on International Women's Day, because that's really what I had planned for us to have this conversation during International Women's Day, but we're still in International Women's Month, so it's still on track. But I wanted to really show my appreciation to you, Colleen, because I don't know how if you realize how much of an impact you've had on my agile journey. And I love to let persons know that I'm the first professional Kanban trainer in the entire Caribbean region. And I owe that in part so much to you and for you having the visionary insight to start the Women in Kanban Scholarship Initiative. So I want to just thank you for that. And thank you also for being a source of inspiration and encouragement for me along this journey. And it's so hard sometimes to find women who are excelling in this space and to look up to and say, that's somebody who I admire and they're really shining, the light is shining on them and I want them to give me a hand up. And you do it so graciously and without even having to second guess your role as a mentor for the women in Kanban. And I want to just thank you for that. And can you tell our audience a little bit more about the Women in Kanban Scholarship?
Well, thank you for saying all that, Andrea. I'm glad we're not on video because you're going to make me cry. Yes. So when we launched Pro Kanban in 2020, we reached out to a lot of the Kanban practitioners that we knew and that we respected and invited them to become part of our trainer community. And very quickly, we realized that our trainers were of a certain demographic, and it didn't look like the audiences that we wanted to reach. In fact, one of our mentors said, "It looks like you have an old white guy problem." And I thought, we thought about all the different things we could do to try to create more diversity in our community, and I just thought back to my career. What would I have wanted, right? When I was stepping into this space, what was missing that would have given me that boost and given me that confidence to move forward and step forward in that space. And it was, I think there were a few things that really stood out to me when I was first learning about Kanban and getting involved in the Kanban communities. I very rarely spoke up because I was afraid that someone was going to tell me that my question was stupid, or how could you ask that? Or you clearly don't know what you're doing if you're asking that question. But, it's kind of the old adage of like, how do we get experience if we can't get that first job? That, you need experience to get a job, but you can't get a job without experience. And how can we learn if we can't feel comfortable asking questions? And so that was really important to me. And then it was, how do we do it? How do we create a space for that where we can learn together and grow from each other, but do it in a small group with other women who want to do that same thing, who want to lift each other up, support each other, whether you are brand new in this field or you've been doing it for 10 years. How do we create this network of women supporting women? And it's something I wish I had earlier in my career. And I said to Dan Vicanti, let's just make this. Like, there's no reason we can't do this. Let's create a space for this. And like you said, Andrea, you were one of the very early cohorts in this. And I would say that much like raising your first child, I am gracious. I'm grateful that you let us figure some things out in the group that you were in, because I think every time we run one, it gets a little bit better and a little bit stronger and a little bit, I think what comes out of each cohort continues to improve. And I see some names listening that are in the current cohort, and every group continues to amaze me. And I'm so proud of the women that go through these programs, because we create the space. I feel like we create a opportunity, but what really makes the program successful is the women that are in it. Everybody that comes with their energy, their passion, and their excitement for being part of something that is very, very women focused and like I said, women supporting women. So,
Yeah. Well,
yeah.
I really appreciate you having the foresight to create something like the Women in Kanban Scholarship Program, because I'm a part of it and I'm witnessing its growth. And you've even incorporated now where you're doing cohorts in different languages. So that shows, your range of thinking and your leadership, and having the fortitude to think about diversity and language barriers. So I really thank you for that, because not every person thinks about that in their organizations, that maybe having a sole English language speaking initiative may be a barrier. So you're actually breaking barriers. And I want you to be acknowledged and celebrated for that you're seeing these issues and you're correcting it, not only within your organization, because I'm sure as a global speaker, you get to rub shoulders with a lot of influential people. So they're watching how you operate your organization, and they're taking some of your hints and the way that you're operating, and they're implementing it in their organizations, and they're saying, why haven't we thought about this? Like, language is a barrier, so why not let's break this barrier by having our cohorts be taught in multiple languages. So I really appreciate that you had the foresight to start that program, and I'm sure that a lot of women who don't speak English as their primary language, they're benefiting from it. So thank you for that as well. But you brought up a very interesting point, because I know I'm not the only one who suffers from imposter syndrome. And even though, we achieve these monumental steps and we feel as though, the world is watching, but yet we still have that little voice inside us that asks the question all the time, am I worthy? Do I deserve to be in this space? So can you share with our listening audience, how you manage the imposter syndrome and how do you overcome it?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's there in everything, right? It's there in work. It's there as a partner. It's there as a parent. There's all these things, and you're always second guessing a million things of, did I do this right? Or how would I have done it differently? I think I had an opportunity recently to give a talk to a women's group for one of the big 6 consulting firms. And they said, before I went, they said, we know you know Kanban and we know you've been practicing Agile for a long time. We actually don't want you to talk about that. We aren't looking for a lesson. We're not looking for a lecture. We just want to know about your journey. And it was really challenging, I guess, to like sit down and try to write a talk about myself. I was like, this is weird. Like, I want to talk about flow metrics. I don't want to talk about myself. um, and in doing it, I had to kind of go back and reflect on all these places where exactly what you just said, Andrea, like imposter syndrome crept up. And I was like, I don't know if I should be in this field. I don't know if I should be in this role. I don't know if I want to keep pushing forward as an entrepreneur. Maybe I should go back to school and get a teaching certificate, right? All these different thoughts at different times in my life have come into my head. And I had to basically come up with a way to sum all of this up for this talk. And I titled the talk, F it, let's try it. And the thinking here is really like, I think for so much of my career where all of those things have come up, where I've been scared and I've been nervous to like put myself out there, whatever the situation has been, it's in the back of my mind, that's kind of been my mantra of, I think I'd be more disappointed if I didn't try it than if I tried it and failed. At least I'll know I tried, right? And so I got the opportunity to tell all these stories that were exactly that, of kind of pivotal points in my career where I think I could have said, I can't do this. I don't want to do this. I don't want to try to do this because I don't think I can. And it's not that voice wasn't still there the entire time, but I pushed through, I guess, from the perspective of I'd rather try and fail. So let's try it.
Yeah,
So
I know exactly what you're talking about because I experienced that so many times. And I know you're aware that in January, I hosted the first in-person hands-on introduction to flow workshop in the Bahamas. And if Pratik didn't let me know, I would not have even known that that was the inaugural event, the first of its kind for Pro Kanban. And I was like, what? So, what was your reaction when you got the report back? And I'm sure Pratik told the team. What did you think about it?
No, it's awesome. And that's a great example of this, Andrea. Like you put together this huge event and it could have been that two people showed up. And I know how like how much that can hurt at times. And it can feel like, well, I don't want to do this anymore. I don't like, this isn't worth it because nobody's showing up or nobody's validating this idea that I had. But it's a great example, I think, of that perseverance and pushing through and really for something that you believe strongly in, right? Like I believe this can help people. I believe that teaching people about flow metrics is going to make them better at what they do, right? So you pulled together this giant event. And yeah, when Pratik shared the pictures, I was like, oh my God, how many people were there? It was amazing. And I think it's that kind of spirit that we all need, and we probably all need the encouragement of sometimes when things aren't going the way that we want, to have somebody that you can know that is going to be in your corner rooting you on and encouraging you to take that leap even when you might have doubts yourself.
Yeah, well, just know that I did that whole thing with plenty fear, but more faith, and I really appreciate how when I messaged you when I said this is what I'm going to do, and you said go girl, girl, you know who run the world, and you was like girls run the world, and I was like okay, I have somebody supporting me and in my corner, and I really felt that support, even though you're far away. In Colorado, I still felt like, okay, the CEO of this organization is cheering me on, so even if it's not as successful as I would love for it to be, the fact that it's a step towards progress is the step in the right direction. So I really felt your support with that initiative, and I really think that there's going to be more to come. And my efforts to build awareness of agility and Kanban and all these different great ways of working is going to catch on in the Bahamas. It may not happen overnight, but I think that those small incremental steps, they add up. So thank you for supporting me in the vision that I have for bringing agile ways of working to the Bahamas and making it a reality. I really appreciate that. So at this point, we're going to open up the conversation to anyone from the audience who may want to step up and ask a question or make a comment. If you raise your hand, I will bring you onto the stage to be allowed to speak. If not, we'll go on with another question for Colleen. So, Colleen, this year's the theme for International Women's Month is Invest in Women, Accelerate Progress. And I feel as though you're doing an excellent job of actually incorporating this theme into your organization and into your everyday life. But what steps do you think women can do to really further the advancement of other women? What can we be doing to support each other?
Well, I think it's something that's actually, I guess, fairly simple. And I think it's kind of checking some of our own patterns, right? And I want to call out something I saw pretty recently by someone who I really look up to, Johanna Rothman, who was working on her new book and had reached out to a bunch of thought leaders in the Agile space to ask them for excerpts for the forward. And so she got all these excerpts from all these great thought leaders, Dan Vacanti included, to write, a little bit of a foreword for her book. And she had posted to her writing community, "Hey, everyone, I just realized that everyone that wrote a foreword for my book is a white male. And I don't want that. Like, I want to have more perspective, more diversity, more difference of thought in how people are reviewing the book and what people are saying, and give different people a voice, right?" And I think we all fall into this pattern. And so in that example, right, it was a very simple acknowledgement of like, "Hey, I just noticed this thing that I did to myself and that I want some help from other people correcting." And I think it's easy to fall into that. I do too. And so it's like, how do we correct the behavior for ourselves when we see it? And how do we gently tell each other, "Hey, like, I think it would be better if maybe we had more women on the speaking panel, or maybe it would be better if you had more women on your blog post." Whatever the case may be. And I don't think it's anybody's fault. Nobody's trying to do it intentionally, but it's kind of I think a symptom of a larger environment that we're a part of, especially in technology, where it's easy for a lot of the people that have the platform to look the same and potentially have the same perspectives. So how do we change that? And I think more and more it's the small things that add up.
Yeah, well, I think that you're doing a lot to change that. So I appreciate all of your efforts, and I'm going to keep encouraging you and keep supporting you and letting you know how awesome I think you are. So get used to it. But I don't know if you're aware, but I was invited to speak on a cruise that's coming up in April, and
Cool.
the other six speakers are all white men. And I questioned at first. I'm like, am I just the black face to be a filler, or do I really belong here? And I had to slap myself literally, because I think sometimes we self-sabotage. I mean, we,
Mm-hmm.
we question our worth. Like, yes, I'm on a panel speaking on a cruise for Project Management Institute with six other men, white men. But why am I questioning if I deserve to be here? Don't I have something to contribute? Am I not a valid speaker? Have I not proven myself as an international speaker? And I have to, I shake myself very hard when I get into that lull of thinking less of myself. But then I thought about it. This is a great opportunity to inspire inclusion, and to have a black female as a speaker on a cruise, and to be celebrated and supported by the other speakers who just happen to be white men. So it's when instances happen like this, first we question, then we kind of acknowledge, like, they need to have a step system, like how they have about grief. It's like the 6-step process or whatever it is that you go through, because I keep going down this cycle. And then I get to the point of, this is a power play. This is empowerment. They're actually giving me a seat at the table. Why am I not celebrating this more? Why am I not at the highest point in the Bahamas and shouting this from the hilltops? Like, this is a big deal. But I think sometimes we minimize our progress. And I don't know why that happens. Do you have any idea why that happens?
Well, I think it's what you touched on with a little bit of imposter syndrome. And I think, I've been in that same position many times where I feel like I'm the token female in the room. I've been invited, so it's not all men. whether it's speaking or panels or whatever the case may be. And I guess I have the I would say I used to have that same reaction you had, Andrea, where I'm like, I don't want this spot if I'm going to be the token female. Like, I want to earn it. I want to be here because you respect me and you respect the work I do, not because I'm the only woman, because you're trying to fill a quota. But I guess I've maybe channeled that in a different direction more recently in the last few years, where, and maybe this is like unhealthy competition. I'm too competitive, but now I always feel like I want to show everybody up. Like, I want to be the best person on that stage. You're going to give me a space and I'm going to wow everyone. So I guess it's channeled me into a different direction where it's like, I want everybody to be like, we want to see more of that. Not necessarily that it's me, but we want to see more women bring their energy to the stage because we just saw Colleen do something amazing. And it's like, if I can do that and open more doors because I did a kick-ass job at whatever I had the opportunity to show up for, then that's a win. And so it's like, take the opportunity, even if maybe the invitation doesn't feel like the reason that you want to be there, and then show them all why you deserve that spot. And I know you do that every time, Andrea.
Yeah, you hit it spot on, because I was just listening to Deion Sanders this morning on the news, and he was talking about his new book that he just released, and he said a quote, uh, something about, don't let his confidence offend your insecurity.
Oh, I love that.
So it was like, okay, I'm gonna be wearing my perfume entitled Confidence. So I'm stocking up on confidence, you guys. So when I show up, I have to. It's so much of a, like you said, you have to just make so much more of an impact, because you're given this opportunity that seems like it's a once in a lifetime. It's not a regular occurrence unless we try to be more vocal about it and being included. And I think that's where us as females, we have that opportunity to champion other females and said, okay, you guys are giving me a shot to speak at this on this cruise. How about next year you invite more female speakers and be more diverse. So it's just about having those conversations. And I think that instead of thinking that the men are our enemies or our competitors, they're our allies. I
Yep.
look at them, they're our allies, and they create the space for us to be present and for us to innovate and for us to really empower others. So it's like, what you always say to me is like, you open the door, but yet you extend a hand backwards to say, well, come up with me. And so that's what I try to do in everything that I do. It's not about trying to climb to the top of the mountain and say, okay, I've obtained all this success. It's about, when I climb, I want to make sure that my arm is extended and others can hold on and they can be uplifted and empowered just as well. So these opportunities are once in a lifetime, but they change the course of the future for not just me as a Black woman, but for every female that's trying to excel and break through the glass ceiling in this agile space, because the agile space is predominantly male and predominantly white. So if we don't have a voice and we don't champion change, then change would not happen. So I'm not one of those who sit on the sidelines and grumble about stuff that's not happening, because we could do it. We do it all the time. But if I see something needs to be made or created, I create it. And I think that you have that same sentiment, and that's your mindset. You're an innovator. And I think that what propels the whole universe forward is that we see the need for change, and we champion the change that we need for our own progress and also for others. So that's what the term change agents should really be about.
Yeah.
So we have
Well,
a few minutes left. You want to comment, Colleen?
oh, I was just going to say, I'm glad you mentioned finding and appreciating the strong allies wherever they are in your life and in your career. And I feel very fortunate to get to be a part of building Pro Kanban with Daniel Vacanti, because I don't know if anyone knows this, and I know he probably presents a very gruff, sometimes tough exterior, but he does so much work to push other people into the spotlight and take a step back. And he's been very active in the Women in Agile Launching New Voices program for years, mentoring women. And honestly, just really doing exactly that, like saying, I can help you and I can help boost you. And then I'm going to get out of your way because I know you're capable of doing this without me. And so I'm always eternally grateful to how much he's done in the Kanban space to elevate new voices and help people in their careers. And not just women, right? It's men and women, but it's making sure that we have a diverse community of people and a diverse community of thought so that we can continue to advance what we're doing and learn from each other.
Yeah, I really enjoyed meeting Dan. I mean, the whole Kanban team I met the year before January when I came to the trainer, and it was like a family reunion. I honestly felt like I was just meeting cousins and sisters and brothers and uncles, and that's what I love about being a part of the Kanban community, the pro Kanban community. You guys make it feel like family. Like it's not just an organization of trainers or persons who are interested in Kanban, but you and your whole team, you make us feel as though, I mean, let me speak for myself. You make me feel as though I have not only friends, but I have family and I have persons who are cheering me on and supporting me and just wishing me the best and making sure that I have all the tools to be successful. So it's not just about wishing, but you equip me to go out in the world and really make an impact by not only being supportive but actually having care, genuine care. And I think that's what we lacking in this world sometimes. It's just basic humanity and genuine concern about the well-being of others. And I really appreciate being a part of the pro Kanban community because you have that safe space and you have that space where you inspire us to grow. So I really appreciate you for that.
It's very important to me. It means the world to me that you said that, Andrea. And I hope that as we grow and as we get bigger, we never lose that feeling.
Yeah, I don't think we will because we have persons like Maria and Janae who will keep us grounded but supported.
Yes, absolutely.
So we have a few minutes left. I don't know if anyone in the audience would like to join us in the conversation. If you raise your hand, I'll bring you on the stage. You can make a comment. You can let us know what you're thinking about today's episode. Hope you join us next time, next month. I'm going to keep marching forward with flow and having these LinkedIn audio lives to just bring awareness of agile ways of working, Kanban, and anything else to do in the project management space. And I thank you guys for listening in today, for joining us, and for celebrating International Women's Month, where we invest in women to accelerate progress. That's this year's theme. And for those of you who may not know, my name is Andrea Pratt-Smith. I am a professional Kanban trainer with prokanban.org and also a lot of other stuff like my my daughter said instead of telling people what it is that you do, you need to tell them what it is that you don't do. That'll be a shorter conversation. So I try to be as well rounded as possible, and I thank my guest Colleen Johnson, CEO of prokanban.org, for joining the conversation today, which I thought was very engaging. And one more thing I'll share, Colleen, before we close, is that I was awarded the Agile Practitioner Impact Award for 2024. And I'm still in shock and awe about it. And I'm heading to Virginia in June to receive the award.
Amazing.
And I'm going to ask the question, what was the criteria for this award? Why did I win it? And everything else I need to know. But I'm celebrating and I'm validating my accomplishments in the agile space because it looks easy, but it's really not. And it takes a lot of dedication to want to see growth. And I'm feeling the progress. So I'm really grateful for the acknowledgement of the award because I can see where my little ideas and my visions for what this can be is actually happening, and it's happening quickly. I didn't expect it to be so progressive, but it's happening very quickly, and I really appreciate that.
It's awesome. Congratulations, Andrea. It's much deserved.
Thank you so much. Well, this brings us to the end of our episode of Marching Forward with Flow. Thank you guys so much for joining us. please stay tuned to my LinkedIn page for when our next episode will be airing. Next month, we will have the name totally slipped my mind. I know who it is, so it's a surprise guest. But someone from the Pro Kanban community is going to be our next guest, Jim Sparks. Oh, Jim is going to kill me. So Jim Sparks is going to be joining us for the next episode. So you guys, please stay tuned and follow Marching Forward with Flow. Thank you for joining us today, and thank you, Colleen, so much for carving time out of your day to join me again for our second attempt, which was a successful attempt this time around. So no technical difficulties today. So thank you guys so much for joining us, and enjoy your weekend.
Thanks, Andrea.
All right, take care.